guys, my name is Zia or Zaya, whichever one you want to call me, and it is Thursday once again, and I'm back with another review of The Wife. I am still on season 1, y'all. I am not going to be doing season 2 at all, especially after this week. How many of y'all believed that ploy that Miss Mbawizi sent out on Twitter? Like, guys, why are people so gullible? Like, I can't. And then they're gonna give you a 50 Shades African version. Apparently it was pornography. I am so glad I am not watching that mess. Save my eyes from all the trouble. But anyways, let's get started with this week's new review. So if you guys haven't subscribed, make sure that you click the subscribe button. Also, don't forget to comment down below and get your bell notifications on for my future videos. Also, share it with your friends. Okay, so the first episode is episode 5, which is The Kiss of Death. So it opens up with Nkosana still impaling this man with a spear, and yeah, he finally kills him, and he's just like breathing hard. And then it goes to Mqhele, and he is in a good mood, good spirits. He just kissed the girl of his dreams, so he's just like singing, and he gets into the taxi and looks at his phone. So when he looks at his phone, he sees that he has voicemail, so he listens to it, and it's the one that Nkosana left for him. So he listens until the end, and then he's just like, what? I am not ready to take care of nobody. Okay, but he doesn't say that. He starts the car immediately, and it goes to where Nkosana is, and the goons are waiting outside. So Mqhele tells them that Majola and his brother called him in to join the meeting. So yeah, that's why he's here. And the guys let him in. So he gets in, and when he gets in, he just sees Nkosana sitting on the floor, and he's just like in shock. And Mamajola's on the floor dead, and he's just like, Buti, what happened? And he's like, he wouldn't accept, and it had to be done. And he is just lost, like he's literally in shock. And then Mqhele's like, no, get up. So he stands him up, and then he's like, no, we'll fix this. So he opens the door, and Nkosana goes out, and he just like shows these guys his hands with blood, and they panic. They draw out their guns, and one goes in quickly, and Mqhele shoots him, and before the other one shoots him also. And then Mqhele's just like, they don't even talk, they literally look at each other, and they run out. So when they get out, Mqhele's like, where's your car? And he's like, some guy came to fetch it, Bafana, something like that. And they get in the car, and Mqhele's just like, Buti, what happened? Like, what happened? And it's just, he just would not listen. And he's like, okay, we'll fix it. So they leave. And then it goes to Mahlomu and girl is, yo guys, wow, cloud 9. She is lotioning her body. She's smiling, and then she's like, oh, Nkosi, why can't I stop thinking about him? And she's smiling all the time. And then she's like, oh, sing him Kumbul, yes. And then it goes, it flashes to when her and Mqhele were kissing. And she's just like smiling, and she's thinking about that kiss. And then she goes and sits on the bed. She takes her phone, and she texts him. This whole entire time she's just like smiling. And then she just like sits there. And Sandile's like, love. And then she's like, yeah, bro. And he's like, are you okay? And she's like, yes, I'm coming now. And then she sits, and she just like blushes. And then she goes to where Sandile is, and she's like, oh, yes, I am Nandi Bav. And she sits down, and he's like, aren't you gonna eat? And she's like, oh no, I already had something to eat on my way here with a friend. And he's like, I wonder which friend that is. And she's like, Colorado, obviously. At that time, she's on her phone, guys. Like, she is literally not even looking at this man. She's just here. And Sandile's like, sometimes you do things that I don't understand. And she's like, what things? And he's like, sometimes you cold, sometimes you hot, sometimes you hot, sometimes you cold. I don't know what to do. And she's like, okay. And then he's like, oh, am I lying? And she's like, oh, Sandile, ujabula kancane nje akazokabulala muntu. Kuthi ugijimisa igazi kancane. And then Sandile's like, I work at a hospital, I get gonke ukujabula, and when I get home, all I want is peace and quiet. And then Mahlomu was like, kuyacaca ukuthi sifunda izinto ezingafani. And then he's like, clearly. And then she's just like, she's busy on her phone. Guys, it's over for Sandile. At this point, it's over for Sandile Mahlomu. And then he just looks at her and he just sits and he licks his fingers. And then it goes to the brothers at the house, and it's very tense. So Kawe pours Nkosana a drink and gives it to him. And then Kawe is like, we need to do something. It's either we gadla first or we run. Nkosana's like, we're not running. That is not happening. And Kawe is like, you know how the Majolas are. We've been fighting over this route that they don't want to give us, so they will kill us, so we need to run. Ngoba's just looking at Kawe, and Nkosana's like, we are not running, because if we run now, we're going to be running for the rest of our lives. And Ngoba's like, yes, I agree with what Uputumdala is saying. I see it now. And Kawe is basically trying to convince them to either run or kill first. And then Ngoba goes to him and is like, Kawe, if you have nothing to say, and then somebody tries to also say that they need to kill the Majolas first, and Putumdala is like, we're not killing anybody, not anymore. And then he's like, all we need to do is come up with a plan and to move forward and see who is going to be on our side when we need to. And Mqhele's like, we don't have the man, that's impossible. And he's like, no, we will make it happen. And then it goes to Mahlomu again, and her and Sandile are sitting there, and Sis is literally not paying any attention to her. She's literally just like here drinking her wine and watching TV. And then Sandile does the move, when you're at the movie theater and you guys are like teenagers or whatever, and someone's trying to be like sly, like put their hand over you, like type of vibe. So he does that, and then he leans in to kiss her, and she's like, ugh, and then he does it again, and she's like, Sandile. And he's like, okay, you know what, I'm going to bed, are you coming? And she's like, no, I'm gonna sit here and watch TV, and he's like, wow. And she's like, what? And he's like, you wanted me to be spontaneous, and this is what I get? Really, Mahlomu? And she just sits and doesn't even look at him, and she continues drinking her drink, and she's watching TV. And then he's just like, ugh. Takes his stuff, takes the wine, takes the sushi, and he goes. So when he leaves, immediately she takes out her phone and she calls Mqhele, and then it goes to voicemail, and she's like, hi bo, useyangziba yini? And then she finishes her glass of wine. And then it goes to the brothers, and they are planning. They have key cards on the table, and to see who's going to be on their side and who isn't. And Ngoba's just like, yo, this is a waste of time. We should be going to kill these people, because I don't understand what you guys are doing here. And him and Mqhele get into a little quarrel, and Nkosana is just like, this we don't have time for. And he's like, no, if we get Lagata on our side, everything will be fine. And then Sanmula stands up and goes to the closet and takes out a bag. So as he's taking out the bag, Mbande sees him. And he's like, Buti, where are you going? And he's like, Mbande. And then, yeah, I guess he leaves. Mbande runs to the living area, and he's like, but Sambulo just went out. And they're like, what? He's like, yeah, he just left. He said he's going to smoke, and then he just like disappeared. So they all run outside, take out their guns, run outside, and they look outside. He's not there. And Nkosana's like, nobody is going out this gate. Like, no one else is leaving this house. We will just have to wait. And I was just like, how are we gonna wait when our brother's not here? And he's like, we will wait. Nobody's leaving. So okay, yeah, nobody leaves, and then it goes to Nkosana and Mqhele, and they are with a sangoma, and they're getting cleansed. They just killed people, so obviously they need to be cleansed and qinisad. So yeah, this guy is doing the ritual, and yeah, he tells them to bite and spit whatever they are biting and spitting, and then he covers them. And then as they doing that, Ntsiga passes them and sees what's happening, and then he runs to the bedroom where Mbande is, and he's like, Mqhele and Nkosana are getting or Baba keep it or something. And then Bande's like, oh, we should also go. And it's like, no. He's like, I didn't kill anyone, so I'm not going anywhere. And Nkosana is going to be upset if we go and we disturb them. And then he's like, yeah, no, you're right. So he sits down, and then he goes to Mahlomu, and she's making herself tea, and she decides to call Iwele like. So Langa's phone rings, and he picks up, and she's like, what is the purpose of having a cell phone if you're not going to answer on the first ring? And he's like, I'm at a groove. And he's like, what's wrong? And she's like, no, nothing is wrong. Like, how are you doing? How are things there? And he's like, oh, you know me, I'm Langa, so yeah, things are great, and yeah, I'm having a good time. And then he's like, no, Mahlomu, what is it? Spoiler, like, tell me, what's going on? Did you and Sandile have a fight? And she's like, oh, Sandile? And she's like, no, it's nothing like that. And then Langa's like, po yini, like, tell me. And then she sits down, and she's like, oh, angazi impilo yami imile nje. And Langa is like, you waiting? What are you waiting for? And she's like, angazi ngathi khona umlilo ongekho. Like, some adventure, some purpose. And Langa's like, hey Mahlomu, you have everything in your life. You have a man who loves you, you have a great job. I am literally living my life vicariously through you, so like, don't even think about that. And then she's just like, yeah. And then she's like, no, have a good time. And she says bye, and she sits down and she drinks her tea. And then it goes to Mbande and Ntsiga in the room, and Mbande is kind of like crying, I'm not really sure, and he's just like, he doesn't understand what's happening in his family, and he's like, maybe we should pray. And Ntsiga's like, yeah. So they get down on their knees, and Baba Wami and Ntsiga's like, no, Baba Wetu. And he's like, Baba Wetu wasezulwini wamazulu wakazulu wakamakeba. And I'm just like, what prayer is this? This kid does not know how to pray. So he just starts praying and praying, and then Ntsiga's like, include ukuthi akatoputsambulo lapho. And then he includes that, and then after he's like, amen, and he's like, angijwayele lento. Yeah, clearly you said Baba Wami. What? And then you included your ancestors and your clan name. What is this? And then it goes to a sniper Sambulo. And he is just taking out people one by one. And then it moves to him at the Majola house, and the Majola brothers are just like, Geja is just telling his brother that he doesn't believe how Nkosana and them could do this. First it was their brother, and now their father. Yeah, they will pay. As they are talking, Sambulo aims his gun and he starts shooting. You guys, Geja is such a coward. He is such a coward. You should have seen him running like a chicken. He didn't know which direction to go, and his brothers just like pushed him to this way, and they run, and Sambulo is just like killing people. And then when he's done, he takes out his weed and he smiles and he smokes, and it ends with him. And then it goes to episode 5, which is Meet the Brothers. So it opens up with the Majola brothers knocking at some man's house at the dead of night. And this man opens the door and he's like, I'm sorry about your dad. And they're like, yeah, no, our father told us that whenever we needed help, you would be able to do that for us. And he's like, okay. And then he gives them blankets and then he says they can sleep someplace. And then he tells them that they need to keep their guns on what is it? Cocked. Yeah, I think so. And I don't know anything about guns, guys, forgive me. And then Geja is shaking like a chicken, guys. Like, he is shaking like a chicken. It's alarmant. So his brother's like, Geja, get it together, get it together. And then it goes to Mahlomu, and she's going to Babkumbi in the morning, and she greets him and hands him the sushi. And Babkumbi's like, what is this? And then she's like, sushi. And he's like, oh, you're gonna lay sushi. And she's like, yeah. And then he's like, you know, I don't eat these things. And she's like, no, it's nice. Like, trust me. And he's like, okay. And then she looks around. She doesn't see the taxi. And she's like, Baba, awayiboni imoto le eyelo. And he's like, oh, Mqhele. And then she's like, yep. And she's like, hey, we should sing yabonakala. And Babkumbi comes to her and is like, Mahlomu, angeke uthathe inja yasendle uyilethe endlini futhi uyithene ngoba ngelinye imini izokuvukela amandla ekutshengisa ukuthi yona izalwaphi. And then she looks away and he's like to her, I think now you're playing with fire. And then she narrates and she's like, Magusi ngidlala ngomlilo, hayi singishile. Yeah, no, she got burned the day she agreed to get in that taxi willingly, guys. To get in the taxi, even for the date. Yeah, she was done for. After the date, she was done for. And then it goes to the brothers, and Ngoba is cleaning his gun, and Nkosana's like, oh, you've been cleaning the gun, and Ngoba's like, hey, but do you know me? When I want to shoot a gun, it has to sing. And as they are talking, Sambulo walks in, and Nkosana's like, where were you? And he's like, I just had things that I need to take care of. And he's like, we've been looking for you the whole night. We've been worried about you, and you're going to tell me that you had things to take care of. Ngoba at the time he's here, and he jumps up the couch and goes over, like trying to get to Sambulo. And he's like, you saying you had things to take care of when you know what's going on outside and you don't even tell us? And he is going crazy, and Nkosana slaps him and is like, calm down, I will deal with it. And as that's happening outside, there's a bunch of taxis coming at their gate. And they stop at the gate and they get out the cars with guns. And as they're fighting in the house, Ntia comes to them, is like, Bobut, there's men outside. They're like, what? Guns. How he looks outside the window. And yeah, he sees the people, and then one of the guys starts talking Zulu, they clean name, whatever. We are here, and then Kosana and them get out the house and they walk to them, and this guy's like, no, we're not here for any violence. And then Kosana's like, okay, just remember that we came to you guys, and don't forget that. So this guy's like, no, we're not here to fight. And then he tries to pull out something, and Mqhele's like, what the F are you doing? And he's like, peace, brother. So he takes up alcohol and he opens it and he spills it by the gate. And then he starts saying the clear names, and then he's like, we are here to assist you. For whenever you need us. We are here to pledge our allegiance, basically, for whenever you need us. And yeah, we'll fight with you guys through and through, everything. And then he starts chanting Zulu, and then everyone just like Zulu, and yeah. And then it goes to them again, and this guy's like, yeah, we're here to ask you to be the chairman of the association since Baba Majola's not here anymore. And Kosana's like, no, I don't want to be. I think the right person for the job is Udlagadla. And then Sambulu goes to him and is like, but what are you doing? What is this? And then Kosana's like, yeah, Udlagadla is the right person for the job. And Sambulu just gets so annoyed, and then he just walks away. And Kosana chants Udlagadla's name, and everyone just like follows him. And then it goes to Mahlomu, and she's walking in at work, and she puts her stuff on the table, and she's just like, oh, I'm a dot. Mangas. And then she goes, takes a cup, and she goes to the small little kitchen area that they have, pours herself a sip, guys, a sip of coffee, and then she calls Mqhele. And then she says on the phone, Sawubona, bengisangikucheck nje, since when I was saying check, ngiyazi ukuthi uvaliye ifone ngoba uzama ukungi-avoid. Noma busy ney'ntombi zakho noma umkakho. Yazi Mqhele, ave ichaza indoda egcina ithembiso zayo. Wena owangitshela ukuthi uzohleza ungilanda ekuseni, manje usuyahluleka ugcina ithembiso zakho. Let me tell you, mina ngiyintatheli equalified futhi nginendoda engithandayo. Nguwena ngabe ngiyajabula ukuthi siyazana. Into yosiza ukuthi siblokhane. And then she hangs up the phone. And as she's still reeling from that, Lux comes to her and is like, Lomu, I need to see you in my office. So she goes to his office, and he's like, there's a service delivery protest that is happening that I need you and Tabo to go to. Tabo will be your photographer for that, and what I need is a front page story. So make sure that she gets the right information. And she's like, yeah, okay, then let's go now. And then her and Tabo, they go to the service delivery protest. They get there. It's about 5 people, guys. Like 5 people. Like when the service delivery happened in the book, it was hectic. But anyways, yeah, they get there, and she's like, 12th November 2021, service delivery protest. This is Mahlomu, and she's speaking on the recording. And then she's like, Tabo, make sure that you get the right pictures. And they get out. So when they get out, this guy ambushes them, a journalist, and he starts talking about what's happening here and how the councillor is so useless. And yeah, she's just like listening. And then she's like, okay. And some guy comes and interrupts, and then she moves from them, and they walk. And Tabo's like, I think we got everything that we needed. Where? Because that was nothing. They didn't get nothing. And Mahlomu was like, Tabo, that was nothing. I need a front page story, and that is not it. And Tabo was like, no, Mahlomu, I think we find this place is so dodgy. And she's like, Tabo, 20 minutes, and then we'll go. So they walk to inside the houses, and they pass these 2 shady guys by the corner, and Tabo's just like, Mahlomu, no, this is not safe. And Mahlomu's just like, oh, Tabo. And then they see some lady sitting there, and as Mahlomu is greeting her, these guys just come at them, and this mama runs, and some other guy also runs. And then Mahlomu turns around, and then they like, give us everything that you have. And this guy cuts her hand and then smacks her on the head, and she falls. And yeah, they take Tabo's things and the camera, and they go. And Mahlomu is now lying on the floor, and she's unconscious. Tabo's trying to wake her up, and yeah, she doesn't wake up. And then it goes to the hospital, and it's Mahlomu getting tended to the cut on her hand. Sandile comes, and he's running in the room, and he's like, what happened? And Mahlomu is like, I got hurt at that service delivery protest and mugged. And Sandile's like, okay, so what did the doctor say? And she's like, oh, he said I'll be fine in the next coming weeks. For a hand cut, weeks? Maybe if she had like a proper head injury, then yeah, it would make sense. But yeah, that doesn't make sense. So she's like, oh, she yawns, and she's like, oh, I'm so tired. Can you please take me home? And he's like, oh no, I'm still on call, but the good thing is my shift ends in 6 hours. Your fiance is hurt and she wants to take her home. Guys, Sandy doesn't know how to prioritize. Like, this is the woman that you love. You can literally just like ask at work, and sometimes they don't even need you to ask. Like, you can just like let them know that you're taking your fiance home because she got hurt and someone else could take over. He didn't love her. So my son was just like bored, and he's like, oh, you know what, I'll get you a taxi to come and pick you up and take you home, and then I'll see you at home. As he's saying that, his beeper goes off, and she's like, I'll see you at home, and then he's like, I love you, and kisses her, and she's just like and goes to the reception. Commotion. Some guy is pointing at Mqhele. Mqhele is like, yes, sis. He's looking at his finger like it's dirt, guys. Like, he's just like, yes, sis. Yes, sis. And as he's pointing this guy, Kawi comes to this guy and he's like, do not point at my brother. Like, do not point at my brother. And now there's just like a whole lot of commotion between the security and Mqhele and his brothers. And Ngoba comes to where Mqhele and the security are, and he's like, Gadliwa longin. He shows them the gun. And as that is happening, Mahlomu comes out from the other room that she was in, and she's just like, Mqhele. And then Mqhele rushes to her, and he's like, what happened? And she's like, it's nothing big, it's just a small cut. And he's like, what happened? And she's like, no, I was at work, and yeah, I got hurt. And then I got hurt and mugged. And he's like, would you be able to point to the person who did this? And she's like, no, that is not necessary. Guys, the way it happened in the book, it was so like, it was like she was even scared. The way it happened and inspired, it was very boring. Like, everybody was everywhere, and it was too much clatter. And yeah, there was no scary Mqhele who wanted to kill the people who hurt his girlfriend. And she wasn't cut. She was literally shot by cops at the Savers protest. She was shot by cops with rubber bullets, and yeah, he was mad. And she's the one who told him that she was there. So she's like, oh, how did you find out that I was here? And he's like, no, don't worry yourself about that. And he's just like still looking at her hand. And then Thabo comes towards Mahlomu, and he's like, oh, he managed to save this, so it's the recording. So he hands it to her. And then Nkosana's like, man, Banwe. And she's like, oh no, I work with him. And he's like, no, I was with her at the thingy. And then he's like, whoa, and he's like, I was there, I was also there, and they stole my money and my camera. Stole his money and his camera, guys, his camera. And the brothers was like, I didn't put to me. And Mahlomu keeps on saying, Gisebenza naye, Lorna, Gisebenza naye, and they're not hearing her. And then until Nkosana is like, oh, Sebenza naye, is like, yes, I work with him. And then they're like, oh, but deceased. And they're like, no. I was like, no, Sebenza naye. And then Mqhele's like, let's go home. So it goes to Mahlomu, and she's coming out of the bathroom, and she's like, Azmina mawuti siyekaya bengiti, you taking me to my place. And he's like, oh, now this is your home also. And then she's like, and she asks him for, could you borrow me a t-shirt that I can wear? And he gets closer to her, and he holds her, and I don't know if he's smelling her or like feeling on her, I don't know, but yeah, this girl is she's feeling things. And he's like, and she's like, and she takes the lotion and she starts lotioning her body. And Mqhele's like, oh, let me just look what's in here. So he goes to his closet, his wardrobe, and he looks for a t-shirt, and he finds one, and he hands it to her, and then she's like, Ngiyabong. He looks at her and says,
ngifuna ukuthi uzilimali. And then she's like, how kusho bani yena usomatekisi wonke. And she's like, mina bengicanga ukuthi ngicasukile ngoba wafika ngaphela ekuseni. So he goes and he takes a bit of the lotion and squirts it on his hand and is like, izangisize. Yeah, he helps her out and starts lotioning her, and he says, ngizwile le voicemail yakho. And she's like, how? Bengicanga ukuthi sesintulile lapho. Phela bengicasukile. And sis is just like blushing, playing with her hands. He starts brushing her and feeling on her, and he kisses her from the neck to her ear and then back again. And she's just like, And then he turns her around and says, Lalala, ngifuna ukuthi wazi ukuthi wewe wena wedwa akekho omunye umuntu. Guys. And then he leans in and she leans in. And yeah, like fireworks, chemistry. And then they start kissing. And yeah. And then he moves his hands down to the bottom of the towel. And he tries to pull it up. And then Mahlomu was just like, whoop. No, sir. This is not happening. So she wipes her mouth and she's like, she narrates again and she's like, and then she goes and she sits on the bed and he's like, did I do something wrong? And she just like keeps quiet and he joins her. And then she's like, Gutinche Angayens. And then he's like, in. And then she's just trying to find the words. And she's like, Ngisayi Ntombi, Zulu. And he's like, oh, like shock. He can't believe it. And then he's like, Udokotela yena. And she's like, Angazi ngayenza lutho naye. And he's just like, oh, so basically you're all mine. So he smiles and then he starts taking off his shoes. So he doesn't say anything and Mahlomu was just like sitting there like, what's going on? And then he gets on the bed and starts fixing the bed. And then he sits down and lays on the bed and then he says to her, Ozala. And she smiles and she gets closer to him and lies on his chest. And then he kisses her forehead, guys. Oh, wow. And then she narrates and she's like, oh, Mqhele. And then she just falls deeper into his chest.
And it goes to episode 6.
Guys, this is my favorite episode. Like, oh my gosh, I can't wait. So it opens up with Mahlomu at the Zulu house and she's waking up in Mqhele's bed. So she like yawns and she like stretches and then she looks around and her eyes then meet Mqhele and he's already awake and she's like, oh, usuvukile njalo. And he's like, mina bengumshayeli wamateksi sithando sami dala ngivukile. Yes, kodwa bekufuneka ukuthi ngibuye ngizokubona.
Hawu kahle bo. Ngathi ngishiye ngedwa usuku lonke izolo. Kaze yini lesi baluleke ungidlula mina. Guys, she already knows her position with this man. And he's like, hawu phela mina ngiyindoda ematasa. Benginodaba kumele ngiqondise kodwa ungazikhathazi ngalokho. And she's like, awungitshele Zulu. Yini le kuyenzeka ukuthi ukhethe mina? And he's like, angazi imizwa nje engakwazi ukuyichaza. And she's like, how zama phela. And she stands up and she goes to him and she holds his hand. And he's like, sengathi ngidalelwe wena ukukuthanda. At the time she's looking at him dead in the eyes, guys. Like she's looking at him dead in the eyes. And no vigel. And then she blushes and she looks down. And he's like, Naligama uthando nje. aluyichazi le nto engiyizwayo, and she smiles, and then she pauses for a little bit and she looks at him and she leans in and she kisses him for a little bit, and then she moves away, and then she's just like, ngifuna kubo wena Zulu, ngifuna kubo wena thatha umntombami. And then she takes off her t-shirt and she's like, thatha umntombami Zulu. Guys, just like that, and she goes and she gets on the bed and she looks at him. So he looks at her and he also just pulls off his t-shirt, and yeah, he gets on top of her and they start kissing. Guys, it was like they scene so tasteful. I honestly liked how they did this one, not the other ones that followed, but anyways. He starts kissing her and then he goes down on her, like down here to her navel, and then he turns her around. Guys, there's that shot where he unsnaps her bra. That was a money shot. Whoever was directing at that time and was shooting that scene, they did great. So he unsnaps her bra and then he kisses her from her legs up to her thighs, and girl is just like blushing, like she's just like, I'm just like, Mahlomu, weren't you just telling him yesterday that you don't want to sleep with him? Okay, no, she didn't say it like that, but she was just like, she's still a virgin. But does that, and he's just like kissing on her, and and turns her around again, and then they start kissing. They like properly full on making out, and then she stops and she looks at him and he's like, and then she nods her head and she gets deflowered like that, and it's great. And so in the book, just to go back to the book, in the book, yes, it happened somewhat like that. So in the book, she went to visit him. It wasn't after the Savers protest. She went to visit him for the weekend, but she was scared, like, but she knew, she prepared herself mentally that it might happen, that she gets deflowered. But it happened when she was taking a shower and Mqhele wasn't there. So she was taking a shower and then this guy comes into the shower and he basically stops the water and pulls her out the shower, and just like that he takes it. So she doesn't say it to him like Stained Glass did, but anyways, it's inspired, and I liked that scene anyways. So I'm not mad at how they did it, but they could have done it better. Anyways, it moves from them and it goes to the brothers at the office with Udlagala, and Mqhele comes in late. So Udlagala is saying he thinks they should all go down to Embuva to the funeral, and they all protest. They're like, are you crazy? Because I was like, everybody knows that I killed Ubaba Majola, so why would I want to go there? And it's like, no, if you guys don't show your face, you would look like animals. And Ngoba's like, Aibo, are you mad? Are you mad? That is not happening. So all of them are just like, no, we're not going. Like, you deal with whatever you need to deal with, but you have lost your mind. We are definitely not going. It goes to the Majola brothers, and they're all just like sitting around the two coffins, and there's some mama crying there, and this other woman says the people who did this to them will pay for what they've done, and Getcha's basically saying yes they will, and his brother is just crying. Gwaza says yes they will. Getcha is the one crying, like he's such a baby. He's just like crying. And then it goes to Mahlomu, and she is getting into her place, And she puts her stuff down, and then suddenly is just like, where were you? And she's like, baby. And he's like, Mahlomu, like, where were you? Because I couldn't sleep. I literally was tossing and turning, and I was worried about you. And she's like, oh, I just needed to get my head right, ngishaya umoya. And yeah, I slept at Lerato's house. And he's just like, how, when you didn't, why didn't you tell me, like, after everything that happened yesterday? And she's just like, oh, my battery died. My battery died. Guys, your friend should probably have a charger for you to charge your phone. So that is a lame excuse. And then he's like, oh, okay. And then he's like, are you okay? And she's like, I'm fine. And then she can't even look at him, guys. Like, she can't even look at him. And then she looks down, and then he's like, okay, if you say so. And then he walks away. As he's walking away, she's like, Sandile. And then he comes back, and she keeps quiet, and she looks at him, and she keeps quiet, and he's like, what's wrong? Like, talk to me. And she's like, lento itasasebenzi. And Sandile's like, what thing? Aslento yam now. Now, Sandile. And then she takes off the ring and literally throws it in his hand. And he's just like, what? And she's like narrating. It's like, ngicela ungacomplicates isn't Sandile. Angisafuni now. And Sandile's like, whoa. Wait, I know what's happening here. And she looks at him, and he's like, yesterday you had a traumatic experience. She's like, ah. And he's like, no, let me finish. It's only you had a traumatic experience, and I know what pills do because I'm a doctor, and you're just having a fogged mind, basically. And can you please, like, can we talk about this later? And we will talk about everything, like yonke into. And we will even set the dates for our wedding. Like, she looks at him, like, she just gives him a look. I don't know if it's disgust but she just gives him a look. And then he's like, I love you. And he kisses her, and her face is swagly. And then Nkosana and Sambulo at the taxi rack, then Nkosana is eating his kopo, and Sambulo is reprimanding him for not taking the seat again. And Nkosana's like, yini ngathi sokhohle indawo yakho. And he's like, I made that decision because we need money. And then Sambulo's like, yeah, you could have gotten money sitting at that chair. And he's like, no, you don't know how I'm selling these things. Like, Allah is going to give us what we need, and he's the right person to be there. And then he explains it to Sambulo, and then he finally gets it. And Sambulo tries to eat, and he's like, basically, this is my food. And then it goes to Mahlomu at work, and she's just busy typing away there. And Lerato is like, hold on, what is that Virgin Mary? Oh, come on, that doesn't look like a mosquito bite. And then she's like, oh, and she's like, oh, come on, Hlomo, I wasn't born yesterday. And she's like, ah, and Lera's like, no, I don't want to mind my business. Come on, tell me. Oh, you know how I love Mqhele, and it's been a while since I've heard any, and I'm bored. Come on, friend. And Hlomo's just like, And Lera looks at her, and she's like, oh, are you and Sandile during the fireworks dance in the bedroom? And Hlomo's like, Lera, And she's like, oh, come on. And she's like, no. And then she's like, and then she goes and she sits down, and she's like, okay, maybe you're shy. Maybe I should start with me. What do you want to know about me? Threesome, when I did it in the car. And someone was just like, And she's like, church, during a service. And someone's just like, what? It's like, yini, I'm trying to get my whole face out of the way. Lerato should have taught Mahlomu her hallways, so Mahlomu would not get her hallways. So Mahlomu wouldn't be hoish when she got married because sis. So Lerato says that, and then as she's looking at her for her to tell her, a text comes in, and Mahlomu just like blushes, and she's like, "You and Sandila are finally doing the fireworks dance in the bedroom." And Mahlomu, she starts packing her stuff, and Radha's like, "Where are you going?" And she's like, "I thought we were having lunch. Can we please postpone it, Ngani? And she's like, "Oh, yes, we are bored." And then she leaves. And then it goes to Mahlomu waiting for Sandile, and then Sandile comes out, and he greets some guy called Jeff. And he's like to Mahlomu, "What are you doing here?" And she's like, "I'm here because we need to finish what we were talking about this morning." And he's like, "Manje?" And she's like, "Yes." And he's like, "I know." And Mahlomu's like, "I don't want to be with you anymore." Like, she takes off the ring, and she's just like, I'm done. I think we want two separate things, and I'm not going to change my mind." And then suddenly he's like, "I'm also in a short lunch. I'm not going to change my mind. You know what? Can you please just like go home and we'll talk about it when I get there?" And she just like looks at him, and then yeah, he kisses her cheek, and then it goes to Mbuba with the Majola brothers, and Lala's arriving at the Majola homestead, and yeah, he greets the people there, and Gwaza also greets him, and then some guy comes to Gwaza and calls him to the side, and then this guy is like, "Hey, word is at the taxi rank, Majola, Lagata and the brothers have taken over." And then Gwaza goes berserk, and they're like, "No, you can't do anything today. It's our father's funeral. We have to respect this day. Yeah, we'll deal with it later." And then it goes to Mahlomu walking into the office, and she gets a call from Mqhele, and she's just like, "Oh, here's a Nandi upgrade. Thanks for my phone call." And he's like, "Yeah, you should be used to this upgrade." And she sits down, and then Mahlomu was just like, "Oh, be careful what you said. Remember, I'm a journalist. I will record you for evidence." And he's like, "Oh, the only witness is to what I'm saying is you." And then she's like blushing there by her table, and then he's like, "Lalela, usuzwa kanjani after inkonzo yasekuseni?" And she's like, "Ngizizwa ngathi ngila ekufuneka ngibe khona." And then she's like, "Oh, I have something to tell you also. Bengifuna ukutshela ukuthi sengihlukene noSandile." And he's like, "Oh, waze wayigitaza inhliziyo yami." And he's like, "Oh, so does that mean that we can be together all the time?" And she's like, "No, plus Sandile, I don't think he has accepted what I said to him, the breakup." And then he's like, "Yazi indoda funeke ihloniphe into eshiwo umuntu wesifazane. Uyaphapha lo dokotela." And then she's like, "Oh, I need to get back to work." And she's like, "Lalela, Mahlomu, iseyinde le ndlela esazoyihamba. Ngifuna ukuthi wazi ukuthi sukela namhlanje me and you together until forever." Imagine, guys, just like that, until forever. And he meant it. And then it moves to the Majola brothers, and it's the night of the funeral, so they are burying the man at night. Don't understand how that is. It makes no sense. But yeah, the funeral is happening, and the mother is just like crying, and Kesha's also crying, and he's just like promising his mom that the people who did this will pay. He promises. It goes to Mahlomu's place, and it is all the brothers at her house. Sambulo is smoking there. Guys, how disrespectful. Like, how do you smoke in someone's house? Like, you don't even know if they're okay with you smoking there. So yeah, Sambulo is smoking, and Mqhele is sitting on the table, sitting on a chair, and he's eating what looks like ibisi and bread. Like, the way he's eating it is so disgusting. So yeah, and then Sandile comes in, and he's like, "Babe, Mahlomu And then as he's walking in, Sambulu drags him in. He's like, come in here when a giraffe. And Mqhele turns around and he's like, kuzokunceda ukuthi ubale amagama wakho wena dokotela. Uthi baby kubani? And Sandile's just like, can I help you, gentleman? Ngibona ngathi Sandile sekayinweba manje. Bubu Sandile. And he's like, Bubu Sandile ngisho. And Sandile's like, yes. I am Usandile, but I think you got the wrong Sandile. Yeah, I mean, like, they look like which is kind of insinuating with the Sandile that they're looking for is probably a thief or a gangster, like they look. So yeah, he's definitely not the Sandile they're looking for. And he's like, no, mina ngudokotela. And then someone was like, oh, you're a doctor. Hi, that's going to be very helpful to you when we leave you all bruised up. And he's just like, what? And Ngoba wakes up from the couch and then he's like, madoda lento yakalomlisa yokuthi ahambe vakasha. I don't know, angazi noma niyayibona. And then everyone's just like, they agree. And he's like, no, I'm not a visitor, this is my house. And they start laughing. They start laughing except for Mqhele and Kawe. Then Ngoba's like, uyabona la kamfazi kamfethu uMqhele lo uhleli phambi kwami. And Sandile's just like, what? Njengoba usibona nje size la asikwazi wena. And then Sandile looks at Ngoba and looks at Mqhele, and like shock on his face. And Bande comes out and he's like, these are the last items of this man that they call Bay, and throws them at Sandile. And then Ngoba's like, maybe you guys should have a little chat with him in your English, since you guys know how to speak English. And then they stand up and they walk out. And then the smaller ones start beating on Sandile. And Mqhele and Ngoba stand by the door, and Kawe just passes them and bumps Mqhele. And Ngoba asks Mqhele, I hope this is the last time that we're doing this, because I don't want to come back here again. And then he leaves, and the younger ones are just beating Sandile, even with the belt, guys. And Sambula's just watching this happens. So it goes to Mahlomu coming back from work, and she closes her door and then she sniffs the air because she's smelling something that she's not used to in her house. And then she's like, walks in, she's like, hi bo Mqhele, opu Sandile. And he's like, hi, ungazikhathazi ngalo. And she's like, Ngoba athangisho sithando sami ngitshelile ukuthi lesi siqalo sethu sobabili. And she blushes and she's like, ungangitshela ukuthi umlimazile. And he's like, no, I wouldn't do that. I just helped him guti atute. And she's like, guta atute. And then she goes and she sits next to him and she smiles and she sits down. And he's like, yeah, I just showed him guti this place doesn't suit him. And then she looks at him, she's like, as we are slope. And then she smiles and then she kisses him and she narrates and she's like, oh, Sandile didn't. And she's like, oh, he makes me so weak. Sandile didn't stand a chance. And then she stops kissing him and she's like, you mean that this is the beginning of our lives? And then he's like, yeah. And then she looks at him again and then she kisses him again. And she's like, she narrates again and she's like, hi bo, ngajabulanga kaxosh Sandile. But finally, it's just me and my man. Guys, Mqhele did things to Mahlomu and showed Mahlomu a life that she never had or never felt with Sandile. So it only made sense for her to just like say deuces, to chuck up the deuces to Sandile so quick. But yeah, also she didn't know this man. But anyways, yeah, that is the end of episode 6. And a lot of things in this telenovela did not happen like the book did. And if they had just stuck to the script, guys, like, they would have had the best telenovela, like in SA, the best. Like, it literally was scripted for them from the books. But yeah, they decided to off ramp and do their own thing, because from season 1, from episode 1, and there were little quirks and things that could have been changed, but like they were not as noticeable as it became at a later stage. Because when they started, like the show wasn't exactly as the book is, but there were things that were very important in the books that they put in, and it wasn't as bad. Like it was things that we were like, okay, no, we can overlook this, we can overlook that. But then after episode 10, I think, after the wedding, or the wedding episode, literally that's when they started going wrong. But yeah, I'm not going to speak about that because it's still coming up later on. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to comment down below and subscribe and get your bell notifications on for my new video, for my next videos, and share it with your friends. And also, guys, I am so sorry if my energy was low today. I've just been a little bit under the weather. But yeah, thank you guys for watching.